Imagine stepping into a small backyard where every corner feels alive. A broken pot spills a cascade of hydrangea blooms, painting the air with shifting shades of green and pink. Beside it, a circle of red barberry glows inside a painted tire, bold against the lush greenery. Butterflies dance around purple blossoms rising from rustic wooden crates, while the sweet perfume of gardenias drifts from tiny vintage teacups. And just beyond, a ribbon of silver-blue juniper hugs the pathway, framed by bricks once forgotten. This isn't just gardening. It's turning scraps and simple shrubs into a living storybook, right in your own home. Welcome to Arkan Aesthetic Studio, where trash transforms into treasure and even the tiniest gardens bloom with magic. If you love seeing how everyday scraps can become living art, you're in the right place. We share new ideas every week, blending DIY creativity with timeless plants that thrive in small spaces. Before we dive deeper, tell me, where are you watching from today? Drop your country or city in the comments, and let's see how far our little garden family has grown across the world. One little lime hydrangea in broken pot Cascade. Picture a corner of your garden where a broken pot, once discarded, now spills forth a fountain of blooms. The little lime hydrangea, compact yet breathtaking, bursts from the terracotta shards like a secret treasure rediscovered. At first, its blossoms shine in the fresh light of lime green, then slowly blush with soft shades of pink, as though time itself is painting the petals. The cracked clay, moss clinging to its edges, becomes not a flaw but a frame, proof that beauty is not perfection, but transformation. This living cascade draws the eye downward, then outward, inviting you to linger, to touch the velvety blooms and feel their cool weight in your palm. It is a quiet celebration of resilience, reminding us that brokenness can be a vessel for new life. Placed at the edge of a pathway or near a seating nook, this hydrangea waterfall creates a storybook moment in miniature, a scene that feels both accidental and artful. And as the seasons shift, its colors whisper of change, of impermanence, of renewal. From shattered clay and patient growth emerges a vision of grace, a gentle overture that sets the stage for the magic yet to come. Two, crimson Pygmy Barberry in painted tire ring. Now imagine a circle of fire glowing in the heart of your garden. Within the curved embrace of an old tire, painted bright and reborn, the crimson Pygmy Barberry takes root. Its foliage, deep ruby and alive with warmth, spills outward like embers in the wind. Each leaf catches the sun, turning morning light into a blaze of color that no small yard could ever contain. What was once discarded, rubber and worn, now frames life with boldness. The contrast is striking: black soil, gray gravel, and then that pulse of scarlet foliage, as if the garden itself has found its heartbeat. Tiny yellow flowers appear in spring, like sparks along the edges, while autumn brings glossy red berries, jewels scattered among the leaves. Step closer and you'll feel its thorns, not cruel but protective, a reminder that beauty often guards itself. This shrub, humble in size yet rich in presence, becomes a sentinel, an ornament and a shield, rustic and elegant all at once. Placed along a pathway or near the gate, the Barberry ring whispers a story of transformation. How forgotten tires can frame brilliance, and how a garden, no matter how small, can hold a fire that never fades. Three miniature gardenia in vintage teacup planters. Picture a small wooden table tucked beneath the shade of a tree, where time slows and fragrance lingers. On its weathered surface rest tiny porcelain teacups, once forgotten, now reborn as vessels of life. From each cup rises a miniature gardenia, its glossy green leaves polished like jade, its blooms creamy white and soft as silk. The air is filled with a sweet, intoxicating perfume, an invisible thread that ties memory to the moment. There is something nostalgic here, as if the garden itself is sipping tea with you. The delicate cups, chipped yet graceful, carry more than soil and roots. They carry history, the whispers of hands that once held them. And now, instead of gathering dust, they cradle blossoms that turn ordinary corners into living poetry. To see the gardenia bloom from a teacup is to be reminded that elegance does not demand grandeur. Sometimes beauty rests in the smallest gestures, the way a petal curves, the way sunlight glows against white. Placed on a step, a table, or even a windowsill, these miniature bouquets offer intimacy, a closeness you can breathe in. They are not loud, not bold, but like a secret, gentle, fragrant, unforgettable. Four, Blue Star Juniper with brick border mosaic. Along the curve of a quiet path, a band of bricks tells a story of endurance. Worn by time, their edges softened, they find new life not as rubble but as frame. Mosaic pieces cradling a jewel of living blue. Within their embrace, the blue star juniper spreads low and steady, its silvery needles shimmering like frost caught in sunlight. The foliage forms a cushion, feathery to the eye, cool to the touch, a contrast against the warm earth tones of clay and moss. This union, blue against red, softness against stone, creates harmony that feels both deliberate and timeless. Each brick, once overlooked, now serves as anchor, each sprig of juniper, a breath of calm permanence. There is a hush around this planting, as though the garden has paused to admire itself. It does not shout. It whispers, steadiness, patience, resilience. And in its presence, the smallest yard feels infinite, like a horizon drawn in miniature. Placed along a border or tracing the edge of a seating nook, this composition turns the act of recycling into art. From forgotten bricks and hardy needles rises a gentle lesson. Beauty is not fleeting color, but the quiet strength that endures year after year. Five, Dwarf butterfly bush in wooden crates. There is a certain joy that arrives on wings. In the quiet of a garden, a simple wooden crate, once burdened with weight and dust, now holds life anew. From its rustic planks rises the dwarf butterfly bush. Its silvery green leaves a gentle backdrop for fountains of purple blooms. The flower spikes stretch upward and outward, soft and velvety, as though the bush itself is offering invitations to the sky. And they come, delicate wings, painted in colors brighter than words can tell. Butterflies drift from bloom to bloom, turning this humble corner into a stage of constant movement. Each petal, each flutter, becomes a brushstroke in a living painting, both fleeting and eternal. The crates, aged and worn, cradle the bush like a frame for art. Their rough wood contrasts with the elegance of blossoms, grounding the scene in honesty. This is not perfection polished. It is beauty reclaimed, reborn, shared. Placed near a walkway or by a sunny fence, the butterfly bush does more than decorate. It creates companionship between flower and wing, between garden and soul. And in its presence, one is reminded. Transformation is not only for wood and soil, but also for us, watching, breathing, remembering. Six, Dwarf Japanese holly in upcycled tin cans. Sometimes beauty begins with simplicity. Imagine a row of old tin cans, their surfaces brushed with new colors, lined up neatly on a wooden shelf. Into each vessel rests a dwarf Japanese holly, its foliage dense and dark, polished like glass under the sun. Rounded leaves form compact mounds, tidy yet lush, like miniature sculptures of evergreen calm. Once destined for the bin, these cans now cradle life. The transformation is subtle yet powerful, discarded metal holding a living green heart. As the holly thrives, its symmetry creates rhythm, an order that soothes the eye and quiets the mind. Set against gravel and scattered pebbles, the scene feels humble, grounding, complete. There is something meditative in their presence. Not grand, not showy, but enduring. These small guardians can flank a pathway, line a window, or cluster in corners, bringing a polished structure to spaces otherwise overlooked. And in this marriage of scrap and shrub lies a reminder. Harmony can be crafted, not bought. What was once nothing more than waste becomes a vessel of timeless green, whispering gently that beauty often waits in the simplest forms, if only we choose to see. Seven, Gold Mound Spirea in bottle cluster planters. See how sunlight catches in glass, how broken bottles, once discarded, now hold a gentle flame of gold. From their transparent necks rise the leaves of Gold Mound Spirea, bright, glowing, alive. Each leaf, a drop of sunshine frozen in green, gathers together to form a mound that radiates warmth into the garden. And when summer deepens, clusters of soft pink blossoms scatter across the foliage like confetti at a celebration. The bottles, gathered and clustered, create reflections that dance when light moves. Once forgotten, they now amplify the brilliance of living color. Their imperfections, scratches, worn edges, uneven shapes, do not hide beauty but magnify it, just as flaws can magnify the grace of transformation. Placed near a wall or along a pathway, this glowing composition feels playful yet profound. The golden leaves brighten shadows, while the pink blossoms soften the glow with whispers of romance. There is no need for grandeur. Even the smallest corner becomes a stage where light, glass, and foliage perform together. Here, nature and waste conspire not in silence but in music, where glass hums with sun and Spirea hums with life. A reminder that joy can be made from fragments, and that gardens, like hearts, shine brightest when light finds a way through the broken places. Eight, compact Inkberry holly as privacy hedge with pallet frames. Sometimes privacy is not a wall of stone, but a living veil of green. Picture reclaimed wooden pallets, once rough and forgotten, now standing tall as frames for life. From their base rises the compact Inkberry holly, its leaves glossy and deep, forming a hedge that whispers shelter and calm. Season by season, its dark foliage remains steadfast, and when autumn arrives, small black berries gleam like quiet jewels against the green. The pallets, weathered yet sturdy, lend structure without stealing the show. Their grain tells of journeys past, their imperfections softened by moss and vine. Together, plant and pallet create more than a screen. They craft a boundary that feels alive, protective yet inviting. A gravel path curves nearby, and a rustic bench waits in the shade, turning privacy into sanctuary. This is not just separation, but connection. A moment where wastewood becomes frame, and evergreen becomes canvas. The hedge softens the hard lines of human construction, reminding us that security can be soft, and elegance can be humble. In this corner, the garden embraces you, not to shut the world out, but to remind you that within even the smallest space, there can be room for solitude, renewal, and quiet strength. Nine, tiny wine Ninebark with rustic metal barrels. There is a richness that comes not from excess, but from depth. In the garden's quiet, an old metal barrel, rusted, dented, carrying the memory of years, finds its second life. From its weathered frame rises the tiny wine Ninebark, its leaves drenched in burgundy, like velvet against the sun. Small clusters of pale pink flowers spill over the foliage, their softness a gentle echo to the shrub's bold color. The contrast is striking, industrial iron and delicate bloom, strength and fragility woven together. What once was utility becomes cradle, and what once was overlooked becomes centerpiece. The gravel beneath crunches softly underfoot, wild grasses sway, and ivy curls upward as if to join in the harmony. Here, the Ninebark does more than decorate. It tells a story of transformation, of dignity restored. The dark leaves, rich and layered, create a moody, luxurious backdrop that makes the blooms even brighter, like stars against a twilight sky. Placed along a fence or at the corner of a patio, this composition feels both rustic and refined, bold yet tender. It whispers that beauty is not about perfection, but about the courage to glow against time. A reminder that every vessel, every season, and every soul can find its second bloom. Dwarf Korean lilac in recycled ceramic pots. There are flowers that do more than bloom, they awaken memory. The dwarf Korean lilac, compact yet generous, unfurls clusters of lavender blossoms that release a fragrance both nostalgic and sweet. Imagine them rising from ceramic pots, each mismatched in pattern, each carrying its own history of cracks, colors, and forgotten kitchens. The heart-shaped leaves cradle the blooms, tender green against soft violet, as though nature itself has written a love letter in petals. When the breeze moves through, the air is filled with perfume, a scent that clings not to the moment but to the soul, stirring remembrance of gardens past, of evenings long gone. Placed in recycled ceramic pots, the lilac becomes both humble and refined, elegance not purchased, but reborn from fragments. The mismatched vessels, once ordinary, now frame the blossoms like windows to another time, their imperfections turned to beauty by what they carry. In a corner near a bench or along a gravel path, this lilac does not just decorate. It invites you to pause, to breathe, to remember. And in its presence, the garden becomes more than space. It becomes story, woven of scent, color, and memory. (11) Firelight Tidbit Hydrangea in cracked terracotta tower. From the earth, broken clay rises again, not as waste, but as a vessel for fire. Picture a tower of terracotta pots, each one cracked and imperfect, leaning into the next like a chorus of old voices. From their open mouths spill the blooms of Firelight Tidbit Hydrangea, a cascade of color that changes with the seasons. At first, the blossoms glow creamy white, soft and serene as morning mist. Then, as the sun grows stronger, they blush pink, as though shy with warmth. And by autumn's call, they burn deep red, a living flame captured in petals. The moss clings to the cracks, softening the scars of clay, making them part of the story rather than a flaw. Set against gravel and framed by the gentle glow of a lantern, this tower feels both rustic and regal. It is a monument to renewal, where broken things are stacked, not hidden, and where time itself paints the flowers in shifting hues. To see this hydrangea bloom in such a frame is to understand transformation. That fire and fragility can live together, that brokenness can hold brilliance. In its presence, the smallest garden corner becomes a beacon, alive with the poetry of light and change. (12) Dwarf Fothergilla with driftwood edging. There are plants that bloom once, and there are plants that tell a story through the seasons. The dwarf fothergilla is such a companion, beginning in spring with white bottlebrush flowers, soft and fuzzy, glowing like tiny candles among blue-green leaves. As the months turn, its foliage deepens in color, until autumn sets it aflame with orange, red, and gold. Set along a line of driftwood edging, each twisted branch anchors the shrub with the memory of rivers and tides. The wood, bleached and weathered, frames the living colors with rustic grace, a reminder that both land and water shape beauty. Fallen leaves scatter like brushstrokes, moss softens the edges, and stones rest in quiet balance. Together, plant and driftwood create a tableau of change, a stage where no season repeats, and every moment is fleeting yet eternal. It is not grandeur but transformation that gives this corner its magic. In the smallest garden, dwarf fothergilla offers abundance. Blooms in spring, calm foliage in summer, fire in fall. It whispers that life is not measured in permanence, but in the way we carry beauty through change. And in this gentle rhythm, a garden becomes not just tended soil, but a mirror of time itself. (13) petite plum Ninebark in vintage iron frame. Within the embrace of aged iron, a quiet drama unfolds. The petite plum Ninebark spreads its deep foliage, leaves glistening like velvet in shadow, plum dark and mysterious. Against this richness, clusters of pale blossoms emerge, soft, fragile, like whispers of light within dusk. The frame that holds it, once part of forgotten gates or garden relics, now serves as a stage. Rust and ivy climb its edges, their imperfections telling stories of years gone by. Together, shrub and frame create a tableau where time is not erased, but honored. Strength and delicacy share the same breath. The iron steady, the blooms fleeting. The mood is moody yet elegant, a scene that feels almost like a painting. Gravel crunches softly underfoot, and a lantern rests nearby, waiting for evening to turn leaves into silhouettes. In this corner, the garden takes on a quiet luxury, not loud, but profound, a richness born of contrast. Placed by a pathway or nestled near a wall, this pairing transforms forgotten metal into timeless art. It speaks of resilience, of beauty that deepens rather than fades with age. And in its glow, one is reminded, even the heaviest frames can hold the lightest blooms. (14) Dwarf Mugo Pine in Rock Garden with Scrap Metal Accents. At the edge of a path, where stones gather like fragments of a mountain, the dwarf Mugo Pine makes its quiet home. Low and rounded, its dark needles weave a dense cushion, a living sculpture that seems carved by time itself. Strong, evergreen, unyielding, it is the kind of presence that whispers of permanence. Around it, rugged rocks hold their silent weight, and among them lie relics of metal. Bolts, rusted plates, scraps once cast aside. Instead of ruin, they now serve as accents, their weathered texture echoing the pine's endurance. Moss softens the edges, a green veil that ties stone, steel, and shrub into harmony. There is no fragility here, no fleeting color that disappears with the season. Instead, this garden corner speaks of constancy. The pine does not shout with blooms but hums with stability, grounding the eye, calming the heart. Placed in a rock garden or beside a pathway, it becomes an anchor, a reminder that beauty does not always need to dazzle. Sometimes it is enough to endure, to stand steady through heat and frost, to find grace in resilience. And in its company, even the smallest yard feels rooted, timeless, eternal. (15) Happy Face Potentilla in Glass Bottle Cluster. Sometimes joy arrives not as grandeur, but as laughter in color. Picture a cluster of glass bottles, once emptied and forgotten, gathered together and set upon a wooden crate. From their slender necks rises the happy face potentilla, its fine green foliage scattered with blooms of bright yellow, tiny suns that smile through the day. The blossoms glow against the transparency of glass, each petal catching the light, scattering it like golden sparks across the garden. Even in the smallest corner, their cheer feels boundless. The bottles reflect morning rays, shimmer at noon, and by evening, They hold the last glimmers of sunset within their glass walls. This pairing feels playful, almost childlike, yet deeply grounding. It reminds us that beauty does not need to be serious to be profound. In laughter, in lightness, there is healing too. And so, what was once waste, ordinary bottles, becomes a vessel of delight, lifting the spirit each time the blooms unfold. Placed near a path or at the edge of a patio, this composition turns a simple view into a festival of brightness. It whispers softly, happiness does not have to be sought far. Sometimes it rests in yellow petals, in repurposed glass, in the smallest acts of renewal. (16) Miniature gardenia in vintage teacups. And so we return to the smallest of vessels with the richest of gifts. The miniature gardenia, its leaves dark and polished, its blossoms creamy white, rests gently inside teacups worn with age. From these delicate porcelain frames rises a fragrance that cannot be captured in sight alone. A perfume that floats, lingers, and makes the air itself feel like silk. There is intimacy here, an invitation to lean closer, to breathe deeply, to let memory and beauty entwine. The teacups, chipped yet graceful, remind us that elegance does not require perfection. Instead, it lives in the quiet pairing of fragility and bloom, of history and renewal. Placed upon a step, a shelf, or a table, the scene feels almost like a secret, small enough to miss, yet unforgettable once found. In the hush of their presence, the garden does not end but whispers its final note. That transformation is everywhere, from broken pots to bottles, from iron frames to teacups. Each shrub, each vessel, is a verse in the same poem, the poem of renewal, of finding treasure where others see only discard. And with this, the garden closes its story, not with an ending, but with a promise, that beauty will always find a way to bloom again. And there you have it, 16 shrubs that prove small yards can still hold big dreams, especially when paired with a touch of upcycled creativity. I hope these ideas sparked a vision for your own garden corner. Which one spoke to you most? The hydrangea spilling from a broken pot, or the butterflies dancing around wooden crates? Share your favorite in the comments below. If you found inspiration here, don't forget to subscribe, because every week we'll be bringing fresh ways to turn ordinary scraps into extraordinary gardens. Until next time, keep creating, keep planting, and keep finding beauty where others see nothing.